Letters at Sunset. Chapter 1. The Bookshop and a Glance Between the Lines. The Gutenberg bookshop was tucked away in an old quarter of the city, between a bakery and a shoe repair shop. The sign above the door hung crooked, the display window held yellowed editions, and inside, it smelled of coffee, paper, and silence. Sofia came there often. Not for the books, for the peace. In that shop, you could hide from the city, from phone calls, from thoughts. The shopkeeper hardly spoke, and time there didn't follow the clock, but rather the lines on the page. That day, she was looking for a book she reread every autumn, The Impossibility of Being. The last copy, and, of course, someone was already holding it. "Have you read it?" asked the stranger, eyes still fixed on the cover. "Every October," she replied with a faint smile. "Though every time I hope the characters will make different choices." He turned to face her. Tall, in a dark coat, with a subtly tired gaze, as if he hadn't slept well in a long time but didn't complain. Slightly tousled hair, fingers marked with scrapes, hands of someone who works with things. "Then you need it more," he said, offering the book. Sofia hesitated. He clearly wanted to buy it but stepped back instead. It was strange, and unexpectedly touching. "We could read it together," she blurted out, surprising even herself. He laughed. Quietly, with a husky undertone. "Luca," he introduced himself. "Sofia." They shook hands. And in that handshake, there was something, as if they had met before. Or were meant to. Later, sitting in a tiny café around the corner, Sofia caught herself thinking, she simply felt good with him. No pressure. No need to prove anything. He listened. Looked her in the eyes. Didn't interrupt. And when he spoke, it felt like every word mattered. "You read sad books," he noted, glancing at her list of favorites. "I write them," she admitted. "You're a writer?" She shrugged. "Only in drafts, for now." "What about you?" He smiled, just barely. "I fix things. Things other people throw away. Clocks, lamps, record players. I even repaired a sewing machine once." "You're a romantic," she said. "I'm stubborn." Laughter. Coffee. An evening that didn't want to end. As they said goodbye, he said, "If you ever want to reread The Impossibility of Being together, I'm free on Wednesdays." Sofia walked away with the book. And with a lightness in her chest she hadn't felt in a long time. Chapter 2. Cinnamon Coffee. Wednesdays became their ritual. The same table, cinnamon coffee. Luca stubbornly claimed that cinnamon attracts happiness, and an old book between them. They didn't read aloud. They just opened a page, sank into the lines, and then shared what they had felt, remembered, hidden. Sofia spoke of her grandmother, who taught her how to listen to the rain. Of a childhood filled with old books and quiet winters. Of how she had always feared being too sensitive. "And I," Luca said, "am afraid of being too closed off. And because of that, I miss what matters." Sofia smiled. "Aren't you afraid of being too honest?" "With you, no." And again, that silence between words. Real, not awkward. A month later, he touched her hand for the first time. Not by accident. Not like a friend. But like someone who could no longer not feel. Sofia didn't pull away. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe that happiness might be possible. Chapter 3. Warmth through fingers. They were different. Sofia, impulsive, dreamy, sometimes sharp. Luca, restrained, slow, as if always checking some internal map. But together, they fit like puzzle pieces. He taught her to slow down. She taught him to feel. They argued, got angry, made peace. Sometimes everything felt too fragile. But then he'd bring her an old lamp with a note. Not everything that cracks is broken. She kept the lamp in the bedroom. Sometimes she'd wake in the middle of the night and just watch him. He slept curled around a pillow, breathing unevenly. And inside her grew a feeling like fear. What if he disappears? What if, like last time? But he was there. Every day. Every night. He washed the dishes when she wrote. She made him tea when he came home with scratched hands. Life was simple. Almost happy. Almost. Chapter 4. Diagnosis and silence. Then everything fell apart. He didn't show up on Wednesday. Didn't reply to her messages. His phone turned off. Sofia sat alone at their table. The first day. The second. The third. First, anxiety. Then, anger. Then, emptiness. A week later, she went to his apartment. His neighbor, an elderly woman, said. He left. Seems like for good. Gave back the keys, left a note for the landlord. Didn't explain a thing. Sofia walked away in a daze. She was boiling inside, rage, pain, disappointment, humiliation. He had just vanished. Without a word. Without an explanation. And she had believed. Trusted. Let him into her heart. For weeks, she couldn't write or sleep. She told herself he was a coward. A betrayer. That he didn't deserve to be let in so deeply. But deep down, she waited. And one night, she sat at her desk and wrote the first letter. Luca. You had no right to disappear like that. I hate you for leaving me without even a word. I don't know what happened. I don't know why you ran. But if you're reading this, know this. I will survive. But I won't forget. Ever. She didn't send it. She put it in a drawer. And wrote a second. And a third. Soon there were over 20. Angry. Bitter. Quiet. Whispered. No one ever read them. Chapter 5. Letters no one read. The drawer where she kept the letters became almost a sacred space. Sofia wrote them at night, when the silence was too loud, and the loneliness too visible. They were more honest than any of her stories. You say you can fix things. What about me? Can I be fixed too? I don't believe in your forever anymore. It didn't even survive the fall. Sometimes I think you're sick. Not in body. In heart. As if everything that brings warmth terrifies you. Sofia didn't show the letters even to herself. She never reread them. Never edited them. She just wrote, to keep herself from dying inside. Her mother called every evening. Her friend Lena dragged her outside for walks. Her editor kept asking for new stories. But Sofia lived in a kind of translucent state, as if behind glass. Time passed. The pain didn't leave, she simply grew used to it, like an old scar. She began writing again, short stories. No names, but in each one, a fragment of her and Luca. Chapter 6. On the bench at sunset. Almost a year had passed. It was an ordinary evening. Sofia was walking home with groceries. It was cold, a light drizzle fell from the sky. And suddenly, she saw him. Luca was sitting on that bench, the one where they once argued about the ending of a book. Thin, bearded, as if he'd aged 10 years. His hands were still scratched. He stared into the sunset, unaware of her. Sofia froze. Her heart pounded in her throat. He looked up, and saw her. A pause. Hi, he said. His voice was hoarse. You're alive, she replied. What a pity. He closed his eyes. His fingers trembled. I don't have the words. Perfect. I brought mine. 200 pages of letters. Unsent. He nodded. I left because they told me I had cancer. Lymphatic system. The diagnosis was grim. I was scared. Scared to die near you. Scared you'd remember me only as a shadow. Sofia was silent. He continued. They did surgery, chemo. Then rehab. All that time I wanted to come back. But I thought I had no right. She looked at him for a long time. Her eyes were full of everything: anger, pain, compassion, tenderness, fear. Idiot. You had no right not to come back. He nodded. I know. And then she just walked up and hugged him. Not like before. Not gently. But with force. As if trying to hammer him back into life. Chapter 7. Without forgiveness, but with understanding. She didn't forgive him. Not right away. They started seeing each other again, as if for the first time, but without the lightness. There was too much between them. Every word felt like a test. Every glance, a question: will you disappear again? But he was there. Always. He came. He told the truth. Sometimes he was silent, but he didn't run. She read her letters to him. One by one. He listened, and cried. Sometimes he withdrew, but always came back. I don't want you to forgive me, he said one day. I just want you to believe that I'm still here. As long as you're here, I can believe. And that was something new. Deeper than before. No illusions. Cracked, but whole. Chapter 8. Scars are skin too. They rented a tiny apartment, with a peeling bathtub and creaky floors. Together. Started from nothing. They lived poor. Ate soups and pasta. But every evening, they read to each other, their writings, their thoughts, their fears. Sometimes they argued over nothing. Sometimes over who should do the dishes. But they no longer ran. They both knew, life doesn't always give second chances. But when it does, it's foolish not to grab it with both hands. And one night, lying on the old sofa, Sofia whispered, "Will we be happy?" Luca answered without opening his eyes. "If we don't run, yes." Chapter 9. And still, us. Their world was simple: a creaky bed, tea in glass mugs, an old refrigerator that sometimes sang at night like a retired opera singer. They didn't take selfies, didn't run social media, didn't buy expensive things. Their riches were found elsewhere. In the way Sofia ran her fingers through Luca's hair when he fell asleep. In the notes he left for her in the margins of books. "Why are you still with me?" he asked once, staring at the ceiling. "Because you know how to love. Even when everything is falling apart." And still, they were. Not out of habit. Not out of inertia. But in defiance of everything. Chapter 10. The dripping faucet and coffee for two. They lived in a building where faucets leaked and the neighbors argued through paper-thin walls. Sofia wrote stories on an old laptop that often froze mid-sentence. Luca repaired things no one else wanted to fix: old clocks, toasters, record players, even an umbrella with a horsehead handle. Sometimes they didn't have enough money for the subway. So they walked, hand in hand. Sometimes they couldn't afford cheese, and Luca would whip up eggs with onions, calling it a giant's anti-crisis omelet. But they laughed. And laughter, that's a luxury poverty rarely affords. Chapter 11. Books in the drawer, hearts and words. Sofia wrote a novella. Full, raw, sometimes harsh, about a man who comes back. She wasn't sure if she should publish it. She titled it simply, "Letters No One Read." Luca read it in one evening. He stayed silent for a long while. "It's very honest," he said at last. Almost scarily honest. But maybe, that's exactly how it should be. She sent the manuscript to a publisher. With no expectations. No drama. Just to let it go. And in the meantime, they kept living. Luca found a job as an assistant in a repair shop on the outskirts of town. Sofia wrote articles for small magazines. It wasn't glamorous, but always with each other's support. And one morning, at 5 a.m., she woke to find Luca standing by the window, holding a cup of coffee. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "That you're my life," he said. "Even if everything else disappears, you're still here. And that means, I'm still here too." Chapter 12. The coldest winter. Winter came suddenly. The old radiator stopped working as soon as the frost hit. The water was cut off daily. Sofia wrote wrapped in 2 sweaters. Luca heated the kettle on the stove just to warm his hands. Work was scarce. Luca spent hours calling up job ads. Sofia wrote articles for pennies. Sometimes they pretended to be full, so the other could eat the last potato. They didn't joke much anymore. Barely spoke. They were just there. Exhausted. But not strangers. One evening, when things felt especially hopeless, Luca came home with a broken microwave door and a cheap bottle of wine. "Tonight," he said, "we feast, for the fact that we're still alive." Sofia laughed through her tears. They set the table with newspaper, ate pasta with ketchup, and drank wine from mugs. Strangely enough, it was one of the happiest nights in months. Chapter 13. A letter from the past. In early March, a letter arrived. A real one. On paper. With a seal. "Dear Sofia, we're pleased to inform you that your novella Letters No One Read will be published in the summer issue of The Line. We would also like to offer you a regular column." Sofia read the letter 5 times before showing it to Luca. He looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You did this," he said. "Even through hunger. Even in the cold. You told the truth. And now people can hear it." Sofia didn't reply. She just hugged him. Tightly. Silently. And for the first time in many months, warmth returned to her heart. Chapter 14. Smells like paint and hope. Luca got a job from an elderly vinyl collector. He needed a 1956 record player restored. It took Luca 3 days. He worked on it like it was a fragile child. In the end, he didn't just earn a payment, he received an offer. "I've got an old basement room. You can turn it into a workshop. Pay me later, when you're back on your feet." That's how their little space was born. Second life for things. A bare-walled room, the scent of fresh paint mixed with hope, and a hand-painted sign Sofia made with watercolor. She kept writing. Her column grew popular. People wrote letters, telling her that her words were helping them survive. And one day, walking home, she saw this chalked on the wall of their building. "Words can be a home. Thank you for yours." She stopped, pressed a hand to her chest. And for the first time in a very long time, she felt that everything was going to be all right. Chapter 15. A new cover, the same heart. Summer brought heat and change. Sofia received an offer to publish a standalone book, a collection of her columns and the novella. The publisher sent her a cover mock-up, her name in gold on a blue background. The title was simple, Letters at Sunset. "It's not just a book," she told Luca, holding the mock-up. "It's me." He only nodded. He had seen her cry through the nights and write her way through grief. Now, her pain had become someone else's comfort. Meanwhile, Second Life for Things had become a small local legend. Luca fixed items no one else gave a second chance. People came not only for repairs, but for conversation. "This isn't a repair shop," an old woman once said, handing over her late husband's watch. "It's like you're putting hearts back together, piece by piece." Chapter 16. The Test. When everything starts going well, temptation arrives. Sofia was offered a 2-month internship in Paris. A contract, prestige, paid travel, and a private apartment. The offer came from the publisher. Luca was the last to know. "Do you want to go?" he asked, quietly, without reproach. "I do. But I'm afraid to." "Because you're afraid I won't be here when you come back." "Because I'm afraid I won't be here when I come back. That I'll be someone else." He took her hands gently. "I won't hold you back. And if you do become someone else, I'll fall in love with you all over again. And if you stay the same, I'll still be waiting." She left. And every day, she wrote him a letter. Paper. Handwritten. Old-fashioned. Not for a book, for him. He answered. Sometimes with poems. Sometimes with just a single line. "I miss you like a book misses its reader." Their letters became a new kind of love. Deeper. More trusting. Real. Chapter 17. A drama-free return. When she came back, there were no tears, no shouting, no passionate scenes. He simply met her at the station, as always, with coffee, and that look in his eyes that felt like home. "I have news," she said. "You're pregnant?" "No. I've made a decision. I'm not going anywhere again, unless you're coming too." He smirked. "Good. Then let's buy a new toaster." The old one finally died. And in that ordinary moment, there was something sacred. They walked home, hand in hand. Tired. Smiling. Warm inside. Epilogue. 10 years later. People knew them as the couple from the letters. Sofia's book made it into school curriculums. Luca expanded his workshop. He now taught teenagers, the ones everyone else had given up on. He told them, everything can be repaired. Even yourself. Especially yourself. They still lived modestly. No children. No grandeur. But in a home that always smelled like cinnamon and coffee. Where the walls were covered in real letters. Written, not typed. Sofia sometimes read them aloud. And Luca would say, "There's too much pain in the world to not love the one beside you." And every night, they fell asleep in each other's arms. Not because they were afraid to lose. But because they had found. Forever.